We're not expecting any fire alarms, and there are doors here to use if Martyn starts screaming. So what we're going to do today is Martyn's just going to take us through a brief presentation. We're addressing the points that we think most people will be interested in, things like football finances and the wonderful Grandstand will it or won't it debate. Please ask any other questions on any other subjects that are relevant to Plymouth Argyle, any other subjects relative to politics, or otherwise, please ask someone else. With that, I'd suggest that we just pass on to Martyn, and Martyn kicks off. Thanks.
Thank you, James. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming in. On health and safety matters, don't go for the pasties yet, because they're not yet warmed up enough, so we don't want anybody getting food poisoning today. Just going to take you through one or two things regarding the football and the finances. Obviously, on the football side, we were going really well up until Christmas, and then we had the famous blip, 3 points out of 21. That was not where we wanted to be. Obviously, the team was disrupted with injuries and loan players going back and that type of thing, which was very, very disruptive to the team. I think I looked at a series of matches where only 4 players played in every game during that period, so you can see that there was quite a few changes needed. We then get to the transfer window, and of course the transfer window was very important to us in terms of realigning the team and strengthening and hopefully getting players back. Eventually we did manage to get Anthony O'Connor back, which we'd been working at for a long time. The situation with Anthony was that he didn't want to commit long term to a contract either with Blackburn or with anybody else. And we were going backwards and forwards with Blackburn, with the player, with his agent, and eventually we managed to get agreement for him to sign a short-term contract to the end of the season. And you never know, with a bit of luck, we may be able to negotiate a contract with him ongoing. But I think everybody would agree that Anthony coming back into the side has been a real help. He's a quality player, and he's just stiffened up that famous defence of ours now, which is now standing, I think, as the 3rd best in the Football League. So we're really pleased to get that done. Of course, you probably all read about the Andy Kellett situation as well. We were desperate to get Andy back, and on deadline day, the manager and myself were working on that with the club and with the player. And at 4 o'clock, I think, that afternoon, Andy phoned me and said, "It's sorted, I'm coming." So I spoke to Rick. Rick was getting everything ready with the media. He spoke to Bolton Media, and everything was getting aligned. And then I think the media department at Bolton said to Rick, "Hold on a minute, I think something's happening. You need to speak to the club secretary." In the meantime, the manager had been told that Andy Kellett wasn't coming. And we said, "Why is that?" And they said, "Well, he's going to Man United." No, it's a wind-up. He can't be going to Manchester United. That doesn't happen. So for an hour, we believed it was a wind-up. We were trying to find out the truth to the matter. And at the end of the day, yes, it was true. He was going to Manchester United. Bolton had borrowed a player from United, and for some inexplicable reason, United wanted one of Bolton's players back to fill the gap in their development team. So that was really unfortunate. It left us a bit light in that position. And of course, being so late on deadline day to get in that decision, we couldn't get another one in at that time. Fortunately, the manager had already got tabs on Tarek at Charlton. He came down to train with us later in that week, and we managed to sign him on loan to the end of the season, on youth at the end of the season. So that sort of produced the balance back in the side, and I think we've seen that the team we've been able to put out over the last 4 games has performed really well, culminating last week in that famous 3-1 win at Exeter City, which gave us the double over them. I think it's the highest, I'm looking at Rick because he'll put me right here, I think it's the highest aggregate double we've done over Exeter since 1956-57.
You say that?
I'm relying on you, Rick. So obviously that gives us the bragging rights for another season. It also really strengthens our position in the top 6-7 places in the league. We've got to push on now, approaching the last quarter of the season, and it's really important now that we get everybody pulling in the right direction, same direction, as we go into these big games coming up, starting today with Bury. Bury are just hovering around the same level as us. They've got ambitions to get promoted. We've got Stevenage on Tuesday, who are on a good run at the moment, and Northampton next week, who are also picked up on their results. If we can win these next 3 games, dare I say, then we're really going to put some mileage, I think, into our playoff sort of aim, which is our minimum target for the season. Obviously, if we can get into that automatic place, we will. Just going to move on now to address some of the financial issues that have been going on. You're obviously well aware that going into administration, the club lost a huge amount of money. It was about £8 million that year, and since James took over, we've been working really hard to try and get the club into a sustainable financial situation. And the first accounting period that we had was a 15-month accounting period to December 12, and we lost 1.9 million that year before charging depreciation and interest. The following year, we got those losses down to just under £1 million, and I'm pleased to be able to report that the year ending December 14, we've got into a break-even situation. So that's a massive improvement in our finances, which will help us take this club forward, hopefully into League One next season and then eventually into the Championship. Over the last 12 months as well, we have, as has been reported, tried to manage the debt situation that we inherited from admin, and we've been successful in making significant inroads into that. We've reduced our debt to the legacy creditors, the football creditors, by over £300,000, and it means that we've considerably reduced the exposure we had to the balloon payment due in 2016. So we're really pleased to have been able to get that done, and again, it helps us tremendously ongoing in terms of cash flow. The other thing that's going to help us over the next couple of years, I think, is the fact that there's more money going to be coming from the centre. The football leagues, commercial deals and broadcasting deals are going to produce an extra £80,000 if we're in this division. Hopefully we're going to be in League One, which will mean that the extra money will be considerably more than that. In 16-17, the Premier League's deal kicks in, and there'll be additional money coming from then. So we don't yet know what that figure is, but it's likely to be a significant increase given the amount of money that they're going to be getting from Sky and BT Sport. So that again is going to help us move on and handle our debts and be sustainable in the future. The Grandstand, that thorny issue. We're obviously very frustrated that we haven't yet proceeded with the Grandstand. When I joined the club, I was fully expecting by now to be operating within the new Grandstand and being able to generate that extra revenue, which again will enable us to go forward. That hasn't happened. It's been well reported, I think, that the reason it hasn't happened is that the Higher Home Park development was a cinema complex with food and beverage activities. The Bretton side development in the city has effectively put that on hold. If that goes through, they will have a cinema at Bretton side with food and beverage outlets, and the city can't support 3 cinemas, 3 multi-screen cinemas and all those restaurants. So we know that if that goes ahead, we've got to find an alternative. We're determined to find an alternative, and we are in discussions with the council. They're constructive discussions at the moment to try and find another solution which will enable us to deliver the Grandstand. Unfortunately, the cinema plan is the only one that would have delivered the Grandstand without acquiring any debt from public or private sources. Whether we can achieve that with another scheme is yet to be seen. It depends on what that scheme is. Okay. Of course, there's not likely to be any movement on that before the elections. So I think we're going to be looking to the summer before we can really report any further progress. Okay. Last thing I want to say before I hand over to Peter, who's going to just update you on tickets for next season, is that we've recently announced that we've been awarded the England Under-20 International against the USA on the 29th of March. Again, I'm looking at Rick, I think it's 1989 since we hosted an international at that level. And we're really excited about it. We think it's a great privilege to be hosting an England international, and the fact it's against USA with the connections we have with America, I think, is a bonus. And I've already had a word in the FA's ear about 2020 to see if we can have another international against the USA at some level in that year. Okay. Right, I'm going to hand over to Peter now to give you an update on season tickets, and then I think we're going to take questions.
Thanks for coming out. Goodness me, relatively early, isn't it? Match day. I'm not going to stand up. It's not that I'm being lazy, it's just that I don't want to do what Madonna did the other night. And I'll tell you, it's a slightly tight little stage here, and I use the word stage in inverted commas. I'm going to talk about season tickets. Season tickets for 15-16. I'll just do a little I've actually written something down for this because I think it's important to get the words right. And of course, season tickets are incredibly important for the club. Clubs like us, who don't come to work on July the 1st with a cheque for 60 million quid from the Premier League, we have to earn our money, and it's very, very, very tough for everyone in the Championship, particularly in League One, and even more particularly in League Two. I mean, the amount of money that cascades down is, well, it's embarrassingly small, really, so, we have to do it ourselves. It's very important in terms of income, obviously, just getting the money in. It's very important also in terms of cash flow. If you imagine it, you guys aren't very often in Home Park during the months of May, June, July, or buying tickets, or attending matches, or even having a beer. So, cash flow is important as well for us all. It's also important in terms of financial planning, because when, everyone sits down and sets the budgets for the following season, the amount of money that's coming on season ticket income is a very important factor in deciding how much can be afforded without us getting back to the kind of nonsense that ended up in 2011 stuff. So, it's big stuff for us. And it's not just about the money. Of course, the money's important, but it's all about the intangible things as well. The better the support we have in the broadest sense, the better chance we have as a club. We're stronger together. And here, very interesting, at the moment, there's a particularly strong appreciation on the part of all the players and all the management team about how absolutely wonderful the support is down here for the football club. John is massively appreciative of it. I think he said something after the Exeter game to that effect. The players absolutely love it. And the manager uses it as a support when he's looking to recruit people. So he's talking to a very bright young 19-year-old from Charlton Athletic, who's obviously living up in the southeast, and we'd quite like to be playing at places like Wycombe and Oxford on the basis of travel. The manager will say, yeah, but you're not going to get the support you're going to get at Argyle. Honestly, it's fantastic. And that's proven. It's proven by the fact that some of the lads who are here in the autumn, people like O'Connor, people like Bobby Reed, they want to come back. There's no question of, well, we've done our bit down there in the sort of, far southwest where, nobody dares venture. We want to go back because the support is brilliant. Indeed, I don't know if any of you were on that same train. I think a couple of you might have been, but I took Bobby Reed back to London, oddly for the Bristol City Christmas party, after the 3-2 victory over Northampton Town, which was at the beginning of December. I can't remember the exact date. 11th, was it? Something like that? I can't remember. And he was saying to me that he was really, really, really touched by the quality of the support. Obviously the away support, which is unbelievable, but also the home support. It's a big factor. So there's lots of intangible stuff about this season ticket stuff as well. It's really important. So what are we going to do? Well, in terms of the planning of all this, the first thing we have to recognise is that it's not easy to find this money, for a season ticket. It's a big expenditure. It's a real commitment. And, we recognise that, and so we're doing all we can to sugar the pill. So, I'm going to give you the prices. I'm going to give you the deal now. First of all, we're going to hold last year's prices. They're not going up. And by the way, wait till I finish the whole thing, because there are obviously a couple of little things we have to asterisk in all this. But we're going to hold last year's prices. And of course, as before, we're going to have an excellent sort of early bird deal, with lots of really good reasons to get stuck in there, major discounts. I think it's 7 games, isn't it? Well, it was 7 games last year and 7 games this year too. And we'll be launching that deal over the next couple of weeks, round about next weekend or just after. And that early bird thing will be in place until the 13th of April. So people will have plenty of time to buy. And again, the finance deal will be available. So no uplift on those prices. However, there's always a however, isn't there? We've got to talk about, we've got to plan for various kind of, alternative scenarios. And there is a possibility, given that we're sixth in the league and playing well, that we find ourselves in League One next year. Now, I don't want to tempt fate talking about it because, get ahead of ourselves, blah, blah. We've got to work it all out. So here's the deal in the happy event of us going up. And I'm going to position it in the old good news, bad news thing. You talked about Kellett down there, Martin, and that's how they broke the news to Kellett, Andy Kellett. They said, we've got good news and bad news, and he said, oh God, I'll have the bad news. And they said, you're not going to Plymouth. You're not going back to Plymouth. Sorry, Plymouth Argyle. I know it's Plymouth Argyle, but they didn't, right? So you're not going back to Plymouth. And so he said, what's the good news? And they said, well, you're going to Manchester United instead. And it took 10 minutes to persuade them that they weren't bullshitting. Anyway. So good news, bad news. Now, the bad news is that if we do go up, the prices will have to go up from a commercial point of view. Because, you have to have I don't want to use the word a better squad, because I like our squad, but you've got to get a squad which is more appropriate for League One, and that costs more, etc., etc. So the prices will have to go up. But the good news is that if you've already bought your ticket, that's it, you've got your ticket. So if you buy at the prices which are announcing today, on the early bird, or even when they go up to their kind of natural standard level, that's fine. And those tickets will be absolutely 100% valid, viable. There will be no surcharge on if subsequently we, either through the playoffs or through automatic in third place or whatever, if we go up. So the deal is, there's no uplift. If you get stuck in, get a really good discount on the early bird, which we're launching next week. You'll have plenty of time to do it. And then, if in the event of us going up, other people who then come in because they're attracted by the opportunity of going and seeing Oldham Athletic and currently Yeovil Town, if they then want to come in, they will have to pay more. But you guys, or the people who bought the early bird or have already bought their ticket, will not face any increases. So that's the way we're going to play it this year. Now, finally, I'm going to read you out. It's a slightly odd thing to do. You don't normally do this sort of stuff, but I've got the I've got the brochure here, the little brochure here. And ultimately, the reason we want people to buy season tickets, to get stuck in, to join the club, is because it's the more season ticket holders we have, the stronger the club. It's as simple as that. And we've had some incredibly tough years here. I don't have to tell you that. It's been a nightmare. Particularly from 2011, where just keeping this place on the road has been a huge challenge. What I'm going to do, I'm going to read you the main copy from the brochure. This is a brochure, little brochure, which we'll be putting out. It was written by an external copywriter, but who is an absolutely fanatical Argyle fan, who I'll use the cliche, bleeds green. Well, at least he claims to. I think he bleeds red, but he claims to bleed green. And I'm going to read you this copy, all right? Excuse me. 4 years ago this month, we began the most dreadful decline in our history. It left us divided, demoralized, and close to destruction. But we survived, and we revived. Why is that? Because of what unites us, our love for our club and support for our team. Ask our players what they love about our club. It's the fans. Whether we cheer the team on from afar or roar them on from the stands, we're all part of one green army. Players appreciate it, the management team and the board appreciate it. And that united power was what saved us. It's fueled our progress, and now it can propel us to success. We won't always agree with each other, that's always human, but these 4 years have shown us, all of us, players, management, board and fans, that win together or lose together, we are always stronger together. So, that's it. That's the deal for season tickets next year, and I really, really hope we do better than last year and push on. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thanks, Peter, for that very brief summary on season tickets. I'm glad you didn't give us the longer version that was... over to questions. So, any questions? There's a roving mic that Rick's kind of got. Any questions? Can't believe Martyn did that good a job. Come on, show him up a bit. Okay, thank you.
Hi, given the possible further delays with the grandstand, does this mean that the old grandstand will definitely be able to stay open next season if required?
Yeah, sorry, the question for those that didn't hear was if there's further delays in the grandstand, in the new grandstand, will the old grandstand remain available? And the answer is yes. I mean, clearly we get to a point where we need to close the grandstand to build a new one, but the existing grandstand is technically fit for purpose if it's, but it is clearly not the type of hospitality that we want to show people. I mean, having said that, Tony and I went to the Exeter City away end, and our grandstand looks really good compared to that. It's all relative, isn't it? Thank you. Any other questions, sir?
Can you confirm if the four loan players? Can you confirm if the four loan players are available till the end of the playoffs? If we get to the playoffs, sometimes they have a loan for sort of 3 months that may end beginning of May.
The answer is, I just need to touch wood again because I'm deeply superstitious when we talk about the playoffs or automatic promotion. The answer is some are and some aren't. Martyn, do you want to just quickly run through who's?
Drew Talbot won't be available after the 2nd of May. The reason for that was that Chesterfield wanted a callback, and the only callback you can do is on an emergency loan. So he's on a 93-day maximum loan, which can't be extended unless we convert that into a contract, which is an option that's open to us. It may not be something that Chesterfield or Drew Talbot want to entertain, so we'd have to see. But Tarek is on a youth loan. He can go to the end of May, but he can still be recalled. So those two, there's a question mark. Bobby Reid is here for the playoffs. Should we get there? And I'm going to touch wood somewhere. Well, okay.
And Ollie Lee?
Ollie Lee is a question mark about him, obviously, because of his sending off. He's gone back to Birmingham. We need to sort of just reassess whether we can get him back and work out the maths in terms of the days. He's another one that's on an emergency loan, and so can only come back to a maximum of 93 days.
Just clarifying on that, sorry, I did check, and if he does come back, even if he comes back at the expiry of the disciplinary process or the end of the transfer window, unfortunately he doesn't go through the playoffs. Great, sorry, Sam.
Yeah. It's a bit of a follow-up question to the last one, really. If Ollie Lee may not 100% come back, then why is he suspended for Argyle's 3 games rather than for Birmingham's 3 games? Because Birmingham played on Tuesday night, so surely he should have been suspended for Birmingham's 3 rather than Argyle. I don't quite, it's probably something in the rules that I don't understand, but I just wanted that, really.
Martyn's very kindly offered to do that because I don't know the answer, Sam.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, you've sort of answered the question yourself, Sam. It is the regulations, because we did check that ourselves. We had hoped to get Ollie back using Birmingham's games, and the Football League and the Football Association said absolutely not. He was sent off playing for Argyle, and it's the Argyle games that count.
Actually.
Thanks, Martyn.
Well, it's 2 parts, really. Thank you, Mr. Brent and Wrathall, for turning up at the away, and it was really appreciated. And I sometimes wonder that, like, it is a together club, it is a family club, and now going back to the season tickets, that could it be possible that every 100 or 200 tickets go, a player could actually go to the person's house and actually deliver it, and actually make a personal touch, in preference to just coming through and it's like, oh, thank you for your money, but yeah, we'll see you on Saturday.
I have a feeling that you may have been a bug on the wall of the boardroom, because there's a series of things that we are planning to do which are a bit different to last year, but to maintain a bit of suspense, if I could just take that away.
It was going to be a surprise.
Well, it's been talked about for several years, and I sometimes think that, you know, like, I cannot express how good it was to see the directors there with us, and some of the directors will know that. Going back to the Burnley days when yours came up and sat with us, and there was about 100 of us there, you know, like, those sort of parts actually make a big difference to the fans, you know.
Well, that's very kind, and it was probably the most enjoyable day that I've experienced with Argyle thus far. Touch wood. Thank you.
You talked about the balloon.
Right, sorry, there's a lady behind with the microphone. Sorry.
You talked about the balloon payment earlier, and that a number of players had accepted the deal, as it were. Can you say how many there were? Was it half of them have accepted it, or 3/4? Or?
It was 110 accepted. A little bird tells me in my ear, but thanks, Martin. But it was a majority in number and a majority in value, but a higher number than it was value. The balloon payment is down to about yeah, we've got some cash sitting there, so it's about £500,000 balloon payment left. So, you know, it's a big interest. I mean, it's again, £500,000 is a lot of money, but when we started down this journey, the debt we inherited post administration was 3.64 million. So £500,000 in that context, I think it's you know, good progress has been made.
Okay, thank you. Another question. I'm very much hoping that Argyle goes through this automatic promotion. The reason being, my son is getting married on the day at Wembley. And I would like you to do something about that. Because my missus says I'm not going to be at Wembley.
Now that's a true Argyle fan. Well, it's almost a true Argyle fan speaking, isn't it? I thought you were going to offer to persuade your son to put his wedding back a few weeks.
He's not a football supporter. Nor is his wife. In fact, she said to me, "It's only a football match." And I said to her, "It's only a wedding." Which didn't go down too well.
You're a very brave man.
I think first of all, that's fantastic news about the season tickets. Well done, Peter. Have I missed something, or is there any future talk about a hotel, or is that on site?
Is building a hotel on site?
Yeah.
Well, that was part of the wonderful plan that included the cinema and food and beverage units, so 13 restaurants and retail units plus a hotel. But it's a sort of package deal, and that generated enough profit to build the new grandstand. So all of that now is, but as Martin says, the city won't take the View Cinema in the Barbican plus the Bretonside cinema that's proposed plus one at our home park. And so if the Bretonside proposal goes ahead, that wonderful plan becomes a Baldrick plan, I'm afraid. It's not capable of implementation. And being clear, the reason the Bretonside wins over home park is that the food and beverage people are keen to come to home park, but if they could get all-day dining with Drake Circus next to the cinema, whereas here it'll typically be just an evening and weekend event. So we've got both arms tied behind our backs and competing with Bretonside, unfortunately.
Due respect to my friend about his wedding, you've got to plan, really got to plan ahead, because we planned our holiday after the playoffs, just in case. We were all in that promotion.
Hiya. I've noticed on your Twitter account that you've done an advert even, on the big screen in town for this game today. Will you be doing more of that as the coming days games come even?
Yes, we will. I mean, Rick has been in touch with the city centre manager and the guy that manages that big screen, and we have been using it, and we will continue to use it as much as we can.
going back to the old thing of the Far Post Club, because at the moment, the last, I don't know how many games, people are queuing up and go into the Britannia. I know the Green Tavern's got this alternative, but couldn't an alternative to the Far Post Club be looked into? Because it looks like it could be a few years before the Grandstand's operational.
There are discussions going on. Martin, are you okay to say anything about that, or would you prefer to wait until we announce anything?
Yeah, James is right. There are discussions going ahead to try and provide an alternative, but it would be premature to give you any sort of concrete suggestions. We'll do so, obviously, when we're a little bit more certain about what we can achieve.
Sorry, there's a lady there.
I've got two questions now, James. The first one is, with the development obviously on hold.
Yeah, I can, just
right.
okay, thank you.
Is there any chance of temporary seating being put back in there? Crowds should go up. If any chance of temporary seating going in, if crowds should go up next season or not?
We are looking at segregation, I think, in terms of making sure that if crowds continue to go up, we have capacity there. Temporary seating, when it was last used, it was very difficult to justify the economics unless you had very high utilisation. So I'm not aware we're looking at any plans to add temporary seating. Sorry, for the benefit of the video, which probably didn't pick up the question. The question was whether we could reinsert temporary seating, whether we were looking at that. Sorry,
and the second question, I'm not sure if any of you have an influence on this. I know that when we go away, sometimes we get really annoyed that the team, only 4 or 5 of them ever come up and applaud the crowd. And I know there are idiots in the crowd who obviously don't appreciate the effort they put in, but it used to be a routine thing that nearly all the players would come up, and we've not seen that for several seasons now. I'm not expecting them to come right up to the crowd, but at least to acknowledge the crowd.
No, well, that's very. It's interesting because I hadn't noticed that. I mean, I've been to all games bar 2, and I hadn't noticed that. But we'll have a word with the captain. I mean, clearly, particularly given the distances we travel, it's totally appropriate that the fans, should be recognised by players. So we'll pick that up. Thank you for that. Thanks. Any other questions? No questions about buses or? Thank you. Sorry, if you just wait for the mic. Sorry.
Are there any plans for any sort of discounts or incentives to try and attract a larger crowd for the remaining home games of the season? Obviously, we've got a Good Friday game coming up in a month's time. We've got a midweek game. Obviously, the crowd does pay enormous. The team performs, hopefully, to a larger crowd. And it would be good to try and just boost the crowd to, a 5-figure total, rather than the sort of hovering around the sort of 6,500–7,000.
I'll pass across to Martin, but I mean, totally agree with the fact that we want home park full and home park rocking. So, that's what we're hoping is that performance on the pitch and continued good performance on the pitch will drive those numbers primarily. Clearly, what we do need to do is try and generate as much revenues as we can do to invest in the team. This is not about anything other than putting it back into the team. So we need to be careful about the discounts we give. We need to be respectful to the season ticket holders as well. But Peter, I'll pass across.
Look, this is one of the really difficult questions that all footy clubs face all the time. I've worked in this odd business of advertising and branding and marketing for longer than I care to think about now. And, the more that people want to come, the more... Look, we've got a product. In Plymouth, people come out when we start winning games. After Christmas, admittedly. They have to wait till after Christmas, and ideally quite close to Easter before they're really convinced in Plymouth. But they do come out, and they come out in huge numbers when they think something's going to happen. And we saw it over and over again. For example, that season we went up under Neil Warnock, via the playoff final up at Wembley. So it was 96, wasn't it? 95, 96? 96. 96. Do you know what the average crowd was in that season at home park for the league games? About 5,000. It's about 7,600. what will make people come, and this is not an admission of kind of inertia or anything like that, what makes people come is if there's something that people want to buy. And you know what, the more premium the offer gets, the more desirable it gets. It's a bit odd to start discounting at that point. You know, it's really strange. So my personal view on this, it's only my personal view, is that, you know, it kind of slightly undermines what we're offering when we're sort of swimming around 6th, 5th, 4th, to start saying, and particularly with all you lot, having paid all your money, and with active faith back in April last year, to start to say, oh well, come up, and by the way, it's going to be a tenner. I'm not sure that I think it sends out the right message. I'm not sure it's very effective, and that's from studies of football youth clubs over many, many years doing this sort of stuff. But I do absolutely agree, I totally agree, that we should be shouting about it more. We should be making more noise. We should be more visible. We should be talking very proudly about what we have. We're representing the city, all that kind of business. And I think we should do more promotion. We should be more confident, etc. I'm not so sure about deals, personally. My personal view. Martin, do you want to add to that?
No, you've said it all.
And so concisely.
I know that the next year, I think it's October next year, that the club have the option to purchase the stadium. Is that anything you've given any more thought to since the question was last asked?
I've given no more thought to it, Sam, is the honest truth.
Okay. So that was it really. Is there anybody else?
That's right.
Oh, sorry.
Firstly, to the gentleman with the marriage problem. I had the same problem 40 years ago. We were top of the table and we got fed. The question is whether I came to that game or not. Nobody knows to this day.
Yes, you did.
No, I don't. But my question concerns the future. I'm concerned with the young players that we've got here at this club and whether, in fact, they are being brought on by or set back by the lack of football that they have performed. It's okay up to 18, but once you get past 18, you've got to be in the first team or no football.
Well, this is very much it's a genuine concern that's shared with the board and debated at most meetings, most board meetings. So, but I'll pass that across to Martin to address it.
Thanks, James. That's an excellent question, and it's something that is occupying not only our minds but the boards of clubs right throughout the country. It's a football problem in this country at the moment, and there is no elegant solution to it, unfortunately. You know, my own personal opinion is that, you know, under 21 football is not what's needed. You know, these youngsters need to be playing in competitive games against men and against experienced players and with experienced players to bring them on. At this moment in time, there is no real facility to do that. And I know I can be a bit of a dinosaur in this area, but you know, I hark back to the days when we used to have reserve team football on a Saturday, where the youngsters could play in the reserves. That's not possible these days because there's 7 substitutes required on the bench of the first team. Now, for me, that's too many. Why do we need to have, you know, 4 players sitting on the bench that are not going to get on, not playing? They'd be far better off playing for a reserve team on the Saturday and alternating the home and away games. Now, do I see us going back to that model? No, because the game is controlled by the Premier League, and the Premier League want 7 substitutes. They want to hoard all these young players, and they're the ones that are driving this under-21 football, and it's very, very difficult. And I talk to my counterparts at other clubs, and indeed I talk to managers and coaches at other clubs, and they're all saying the same thing. Trying to get experience and develop young players after the age of 18 is hugely difficult. When you think about the number of games our under-18s are playing, you know, they're playing every Saturday. They get the odd midweek game, so they're getting a lot of experience and developing up to that age. And then after 18 it stops. It's madness. But at the moment we can't develop a solution on our own, and it's a problem that's occupying all the great football minds at the moment on how we deal with it.
I mean, what's probably fair to say is that there was a development league contemplated last year, correct?
Final third,
Yeah, and we supported that, but there was insufficient support for it to actually carry. So we are very, very supportive of it. We want to see young footballers developed and continue to develop, but we're still working on a solution with the football league that will achieve that. Is there any further questions? Sorry.
Very quick one about promotion within the actual advertising our brand and our football club. Basically, by November, I think, early November, there was no possible chance of anyone buying a shirt between year 1 and year 8, right? And when people went up to buy Christmas presents for their sons and daughters and grandchildren, that was not possible. And it's like ridiculous, because I'm fed up with the people wearing the Liverpools and the Man Uniteds around town. We should be actually promoting the younger ages. So when they wear the Argyle shirt, they're proud, is advertising.
Well, I think that's an incredibly powerful point, and we've got a retail business, Salt Rock, that we own, and it is if we run out of sizes of popular garments, we get very exercised by that. I mean, the problem we clearly have as a football club is when we do very well, or when we perceive to be doing well, and if the strip is light, then it sells very, very quickly and you sell out. If you get it wrong the other way, then you end up with stock which, at least with Salt Rock, with a hoodie or a t-shirt, the next year you can sell it, same sort of thing. Whereas for us it becomes redundant very quickly. So it's again a challenge we've had at the board. The sort of retail group and Martyn are understandably very proud of the fact that we've sold out of all the shirts. But it exactly raised that question for me as to how many shirts didn't we sell because we didn't have them. I'll pass across to Martyn.
One of the problems we have in dealing with sort of shirt manufacturers is the lead time in terms of repeat orders, and the time it takes to get the shirts here after we place the order in, and the minimum quantities. So with the striped shirt this year, the minimum quantity to reorder was 1,000 shirts. So if we got to the point where we thought we were going to sell out, we'd have to get another 1,000 shirts. And how many of those 1,000 shirts were we going to sell after December, for instance, without being stuck with a lot of stock? So that's a problem for us. Now, we were selling the new shirt very, very well early in the season. We therefore anticipated the demand continuing into December, and we placed an order for another 1,000 shirts, which came in, I think, the end of November, beginning of December. And as a result of that, our shirt sales this year are over 30% higher than the previous year. So, we did place our order. We have to place our order, would you believe, in January, for delivery in June, July. So we're having to look ahead quite a long way to try and really guess what the demand for shirts are. We want to sell out, but I'd rather sell out sort of on the 2nd of May rather than the 30th of November. But trying to guess what the level of sales is going to be is hugely difficult.
I'm just conscious I think that's Gary in the corner, but he's a very skinny Gary, it's going to be said. He's going to be even skinnier once he's finished his cycle ride. So did you want to say something about cycling? Or?
Please, not try.
No, do you want to need a thank you. It's okay, Gary, don't be too concerned.
My words this time. For the Pedals for Pounds, we've actually got the cyclists coming from Wembley Stadium down to Home Park this season. But we're also going to have another challenge going on at the very same days in the suites on your exercise bikes. Now I would like to put it to James Brent or the other directors, will you be up to the challenge as well?
I think Sue may be saying something about our girth there, is that correct, Sue? Or? Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly delighted to accept that challenge, subject to managing diaries, so I just need to make sure I can do it, and I assume that my colleagues will...
I'm doing it right anyway.
Brilliant, brilliant.
I'd have to pass the medical.
So Richard Holliday's got to go for medical first, he says, but that's no excuse. Go on, get it done and participate. Okay, great. I'm just very conscious that Gary and team have very kindly let us use the marquee for this session, so we're probably coming to the end of the session. But are there any final questions that any burning questions anyone has to ask? That's great. Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's really appreciated from all of us that people have taken the time and effort to come in so reasonably early on a Saturday morning, and fingers crossed for 3 points this afternoon, another 3 on Tuesday, another 3 this following Saturday. Thanks a lot.